Kawasaki W650 Winterization Part 3. In this part, we're going to open up the head cover and do the valve check. So this is actually very simple to do on this particular bike because everything is exposed. Just a reminder, in the previous section, we did remove the spark plugs. So in order to go ahead and remove the cover, in order to check the valve, the gaps between the valve guides and the overhead cam, we need to remove this cap basically. So what I did is, to make things a lot easier, I removed the coil, right? The coil is the part that was here and it had the power cables that go to the spark plugs. So I removed it and it's only 2 bolts. Also, I removed this kind of wire sensor, this one here. It was under here and it was, bothering me because like if you lift this, there's not much space here. So if you lift the cover, you might damage it. So I just removed it. These are the wires from the coil, by the way. I need to be cleaned, by the way. So anyway, so what you need to do is you need to remove this cover, this beautiful cover here, and it's held by 2 bolts. Make sure that you don't lose the plastic O-rings here. And I like to put them back so I don't lose them, right? The bolts. Anyway, you remove those, you remove the cap, then you unscrew the guides for the protector guides for the spark plugs. You don't have to remove them completely. Don't take them out. You don't need to. You just need to lift them like this. Okay, on both sides. Remove the bolts. I started with essentially one crisscross, 1, 2, and then that one and this one, and then those 2 in the middle. And I really didn't have to have, like, I didn't pry it open or anything. It was actually pretty loose. I started pulling on those and like I could see the whole thing moving. If you do need to pry it, in some cases it's stuck. So these are the prying points right here, right? You put the screwdriver like this and you pry it like that. Okay. So, yeah, in my case, I do not have this, the extra gasoline burning system that California bikes might have. So when I bought the bike, it was already removed. So that's just a dumb plug here. Anyway, so what you do is you simply lift this up and remove it. So this is what happens if you remove it. So when you remove the cap, the head cover, you go that way and then you come out this way or that way. It doesn't matter. Just like lift it up and then go that way. Be careful. This gasket here can be reused, right? So don't rip it and don't drag it with the gasket. Make sure you take the gasket down from the cover as you lift the cover, right? And then you carefully, without gasket, or if the gasket is stuck to the cover, that's fine. Just remove it this way. And this is how your bevel, this is your bevel drive, right? This is your shaft that rotates the overhead cam. This is the overhead cam right there, see? So in my case, it's decent on this side. It's some sign of wear on this side. Okay, but still not bad. No ridges. Yeah. Okay. So it's very clean inside. So now the next step is to go ahead and start using this measuring stuff. Make sure that the spark plugs are out. Now, what the next thing you need to do is you need to put each cylinder into top dead center. Now, this is critical to understand that on other bikes it might be different, but on this bike, both cylinders go up and down together like this. So each cylinder, basically you need to put the top dead center for this cylinder on the exhaust stroke. What will happen is that these two are going to be loosened okay? And actually this one is loosened too. So essentially when you put it in top dead center for the first cylinder, you see the lobes there, that lobe's pointing down and that lobe is pointing down, see? And even this lobe, the big one in the middle, it's pointing down too the other way, right? So all of the springs, essentially that, these springs here, right? These springs, they're all loose right now. And this is exactly what we want. We want top dead center so that the springs are loose and you can take measurements when springs are loose. Remember, you have to do it when the engine is cold, okay? So to put it, the first cylinder in top dead center, you rotate this, you open these ones, these two, right? And there is a bolt, right? That's literally your crank. You use a 17mm socket to rotate it counterclockwise, okay? Counterclockwise, not clockwise, counterclockwise. And you, as you rotate it, you look and you look for, see that white mark there? And you see how it's aligned with this groove, right? Those two, it says a little, the letter T on it. That T on the flywheel, that's actually the flywheel over there. That T on the flywheel has to align with this groove, and that means that you reach top dead center in one of the cylinders. It doesn't mean that both of them are top dead center. Only one of them is top dead center, and that's crucial. Okay, so in this case, how do you know it's top dead center? You see the little T lined up, and you look at which cylinder has the lobes down and springs relaxed, right? So just to let you know, as the cam rotates, the lobes lift and they put stress on these things, and that's how, you know, how these move, they push down, right? So the top dead center of this cylinder, in this case, has all of the springs relaxed because the lobes are facing away from each other, right? If you look at the manual, actually, in the shop manual for this bike, there's a graph for that, and you will see they will also say make sure that the cylinder you're working on has to be in top dead center. Okay, so what you do after that is once you're there, essentially, then you start measuring, right? You take these kind of, see, set of really thin plates, and each plate is marked with from 1 millimeter, so 1 millimeter, that's 1, see, 1.00, and it goes less, you know, this is 1.75, for example, right? So once you put one cylinder in top dead center, just stick with one cylinder. Do not measure both cylinders, because when one in top dead center, the other one is not in top dead center, okay? That's huge mistake, because these will be loose while those will be tight, right? So don't do this mistake. Do one cylinder at a time. You measure, right? For example, the exhaust valves here, right? They need to be between 0.14 and 0.19 of a millimeter, right? So you set, for example, you take these things and you say, let's say, I want to see if these are in spec. So we know that the spec is a range between 0.14 and 0.19 of a millimeter. So let's say you want to see if it's within spec or not. So for example, let's see if it's not too loose, right? So 0.20, right? So it's 0.20 is outside of the spec. So if you insert this in here, see, you kind of insert it, you try to insert it under, see, it doesn't go in, it refuses to go in, right? You kind of put it in that gap there, and it refuses to go in, right? So yeah, so it doesn't go in fully, maybe a little bit, but not fully. That means that the gap here is thinner than 0.2. It's thinner. Okay, let's look at 0.15, right? So 0.15 is within the range of 0.14 and 0.19. And see, for example, you insert it in there, in the gap between the shim, see? And you go, oh, it's super All right, goes in easily. Right, and you try the other one. Right, so you're gonna go on one cylinder only, right? Okay, 15. If 15 is loosely in there, it means the gap is somewhere between 15 and 20. Okay, and so if you want to see exactly how much it is, you add, let's say, put this 002, right? Let's put 002. Let me just set it to 17. So put 15 plus 002, it's going to be 0.17. See, 02, and then underneath there's 15. So you kind of take it together like that, and you go in there and see if 0.17 is okay. See? Oh, 0.17 is great. You know, 0.17. It's it goes in quite well. And then see here, this one goes in as well. Okay, so let's see. Okay, how much is in there? Actually, it's not 0.17. So let's see. Let's put 18, for example. All right. So you start moving these things until you find 0.003. Okay, here's 0.003. Okay, let's see how it fits again. Okay, so this is 15. You see that? Oh, it's tight. It's tight, but it goes in, right? See, it barely went in, but it's tight. It means this gap is 17. This gap is the same. So it's actually, it doesn't go in fully. So this is like 16, right? So this one, the second one is 16. Okay, so it's not 17 because the 17 doesn't go in. So it must be 16 then, right? And this is 17 because it goes in. So you go in and you start measuring the intake. And in this case, intake range is 0.08 to 0.14. You do the same procedure, just as a ballpark, you insert 0.1. Yeah, here we go. See, 10.10. So you take measurements with 0.10 first, just to see the ballpark where you are. Is 10 gonna fit? Let's see here. Okay, let's see here. 10 is gonna fit. You go in, 10. Is barely fitting, actually, but it went through. So it's 10 basically. Here on this one, it's actually exactly 10. That's interesting. Yeah, see? It's exactly 10. It's very tight. That's where you want to be. So it is within range, 0.08 to 0.14. This one is 10. Great. Okay, now you measure this one. Here, 10 is too loose. So you add, again, 0.2, right? And you continue this until you find the exact number, right? My point is that you go cylinder by cylinder. Once you measured all four, you record them on a piece of paper. And then you go ahead and rotate this forward a cycle until you reach the next top dead center. And that's going to give you the top dead center for this cylinder. Okay, and you start measurement from scratch. You go 1, 2, exhausts, and then 1, 2, intake. And that's how you take all the measurements. All you do after that is you put the cover back on. Please also take into consideration the exact torque for each bolt on the cover, right? So make sure you torque it correctly. This is crucial. Also, look at the condition of this of the gasket. In this case, the gasket is okay. It's not ripped or anything. So I'm gonna leave it. If the gasket, if you took it out from this areas, here and here, make sure you put silicone underneath, okay? And then you put the gasket back on. Okay, and then you put the cap and you torque everything, and you're good to go. And you obviously assemble everything as you disassembled. That's it. That's how you do the valves for W650. By doing the valves, I mean valve check. So in my case, I've checked all of the gaps, and my check, I don't need to change anything. Everything is within spec. But if you are not within spec, if the valves are too loose or too tight, then you need to change those shims, right? And you look at the manual how to do that. Basically, you see those little shims, like they look like round shims there. So you would need to lift these lifters up and literally change those shims according to the table, which is in your manual, okay? And you do some shim math, right? And the table in your manual will help you with that. I'm not going to cover it because it's you need a separate video for that. But in my case, the valve check is done just like that.